Hello, welcome to your channel, Rams. In this channel, we talk about three things with investments, immigrations, and integrations. Integrations in Canada, immigration in Canada as well. In regards to investment everywhere, let it be in Africa or in Canada. If this is your first time in this channel, please subscribe. Today, we're going to talk about what I believe to be the number one type of investment for immigrant. Why am I saying for immigrant? Because I want to be specific. If I say for everybody, it depends on your situation. Then I'm going to explain myself why am I saying for immigrant. As an immigrant, we left our countries to be able to make a good living, to make money. Some of us are meant to go back in Africa, but that need to be prepared. How do you speed up the amount of money that you make? Is through investment. Not only your 9 to 5 jobs is not gonna cut it. It's not gonna cut it. How many years of experience do you have? Some of us 10-15 years. Is that enough to achieve all the goals? No, you need other source of revenue, and you need it through investment or passive income, which can still be linked as investments. I believe property, which includes land as well, being the number one type of investment for immigrant. Why? I'm gonna compare it with other type of investment, but property stands out. Why? Because it doesn't require your physical presence. You don't need to be there for it to succeed. Any new startup in terms of businesses or services that you could be providing, it requires your physical presence, and with that is sometimes difficult. But for properties investment, you can start up your investment without being there. With our normal work 9 to 5, we get times off at work, 2 weeks at most or 4 weeks depending on where you work, and with that you can be managing businesses abroad. But with property investment, there is an opportunity for you to purchase lands, properties, and manage it from abroad. You don't need to be there. You know the saying, you can't be at two places at once, right? But with property investment, you can contract some constructors peoples, and they'll do the job for you. You just need to have the cash flow. I like that type of investment because it allows me to be able to achieve my financial goals without being present at all the time in Africa. The best way to start with those type of investment is depends on how much you have. Let's say that you work 9 to 5. You average. You're not rich, you average. You have some cash flow. You can start off by buying like a piece of land which gain value over time, and you can do a lot of things with that. That's one of the good things about properties. It never loses its value. There is always a return into investment. In all my life, I've never seen anyone that invested and saying that I've lost money into property because I invested. Thing could happen in terms of securing your papers, but you can use the time off that you have to go in Africa and secure your land properly with proper documentation and all that. And from there, you can grow your property. As I was saying, property beats all the type of investment for immigrants. I'll give you an example. If you have a startup business, for example, you can't rely on people. You can't delegate a startup business. It requires your presence. You need to put in the time. Sometimes it's not that easier to put in the time because you're not always there. But with property, you can buy a land today. You're not starting building, and you wait after 1 year, 2 years, as you saved up a lot of money or some quite money, you can start building. Or you can buy a land today, you divide the land, you resell, then you have enough money to buy another land and start building. I always say, Start small. In Africa, cities are developing. There is opportunities to buy land either in city, if you count 5 kilometers away from the city, or 10 kilometers away from the city. You know, with all the development coming into Africa, buying a land in the city, you know, even if the place is not as lived as yet, after 1 year or few years to come, people will come and stay in those areas, or you can still resell it. So that's number one. You can't ever lose money out of your property. Believe me, I've done it and it works. It works in any other way. Sometimes when I have my vacations, one thing that I do is I'll go in Africa and I'll buy properties. I'll buy land as low as $1,000. I'll still buy those lands, and I'll tell you, there is no land that I ever purchased for which I was not able to resell with at least making 50% of benefit out of the my transactions. Sometimes I make triple the money. Sometimes I even make 10 times the amount that I purchased the land for. The other thing that you need to consider is, once you buy a land, you don't need to be there all the time. You can just delegate one person, a family member, just to do the paperwork with you whilst you're there, and you contract constructors. The constructors, you have a defined price, you know, per project. When you start with your foundation, when you start with that, you know the exact amount that you need to pay them, and you can start saving up for those. It is achievable. It takes a little bit of time. Within 1 or 2 years, you'll complete your building or your establishment, and you'll be able to start making profits out of that. So that's one. The second thing that you could do, I'll give you a piece of secret for immigrants staying abroad. As an immigrant living abroad, I'm sure you had time to save up, or maybe you have already purchased a house where you are. And with what we've seen during the COVID, houses prices had doubled, and they keep on going up. And anyone that purchased a house 4 years ago, most of us, probably you've seen your houses being almost double the price. And remember, that's money that you have. So let me just give you an example. You bought a house 500,000. Today, the house worth 1 million. So in another word, you already pay 100,000. So you have pretty much 600,000 with you in terms of equity. You can use that money to purchase a land in Africa. With that in mind, you purchase a land, the building of the house will be so quick, and you can resell the houses or the apartment that you build. Let's say that a small calculations, a land costs you 25,000 in Africa. Building 4 apartment out of that land is 100,000. So in total, you would have spent 125,000, and I'm sure the minimum that you could resell each of the apartment is 50,000. So that gives you like 200,000. So within 6 months, you have the opportunity to have made 200,000. As a benefit, you would have made 75,000. That obviously you could have repaid. Obviously, you repaid your loan, and after repaying your loan, you could have invested into something else. And I always say, always start with investment in property as an immigrant. Once you have that settled, once the income, you start seeing the cash flow, then you can invest into other things, because then you have the opportunity to leave your 9-to-5 work to invest into your consulting business, your services, or anything else, your startup. You have that opportunity to do so. But the best way that never fails is investing into property, because then you're not taking any gambling. You're not gambling because you know with that you're not losing any money. You're always gonna make a profit. I say, instead of keeping 5,000 in your bank account wherever you are in Europe, in North America, don't ever keep 5,000. unless you have like a short-term project with that. Send it in Africa, buy a land, buy a piece of a land. Even after 6 months, you're still gonna make a profit out of that. If you don't make a profit, you can start building. By the time you start building, the worth of that land would have been maybe 2 times over already from the price that you purchase it. So you need to think that way. By thinking that way, you're gonna realize the project that you had. By thinking that way, you're gonna make your projects come true. The main project that we all have when we moved abroad was to make a good living, to become financially stable, and to be able to support our family. There is nothing more than family. We are here to support our family, your parent, your cousin. We are here to become financially independent. And one way to become financially independent is through investing smartly. Don't jeopardize your 9-to-5 work for a startup. It could work, but the risk, I always say in investment, you need to calculate your risk. You need to be able to do a risk assessment. You do your risk assessment and you're considering, what am I risking? Yes, a good project might be good to you, but you don't know the future unless you have a crystal ball. You don't know the future. It's always good to play it safe for the first time so that you secure yourself. I always say, secure yourself in a way that if you have invested, even if you lose your 9-to-5, you're not gonna fall on the ground. You're still gonna be able to support yourself, to tie both month end. You're still gonna be able to support yourself and to support your family. Once you are able to do that, then you can take other endeavors and you can try your startup. You can try anything that you have to try. So I hope in this video we have answered the main questions. The type of investment as an immigrant we should invest into. The number one is property investment. Why? Because it retains its value. Why? Because you're not ever losing your capital, the amount that you invested. Why? Because it's secure. Why? Because you don't need to be there for it to succeed. You can delegate, you can have people. Yes, even construction people, sometimes they might mess around or play around, but you can sign contract if they are a reputable company that you contracted yourself with. So investment in property, it's really the way to go. Depending on your situations, some other things might work better for you. But as an immigrant, we live abroad and we often have issues or complexities in investing in Africa. Let it be because you're opening a new business as a startup, or you're selling services or products. Those requires for you to be there all the time. But staying abroad with the 9-to-5 work that we normally do, you don't have that luxury to be around. And you know the saying, you can't be at 2 places at once. So for me, the number one investment is property investment, which includes your lands, houses, complexes like apartment complexes, or anything that you can afford. And I always say the best way to start into an investment is to start small, buying a land. But if you can afford more, you can buy already property and rent it out. Buying a land, it's a way of securing, number one, your money, and you're not losing anything, because after time there is always an increase in terms of the value of your land. And if you don't have much more money to start building, one thing that you can for sure do is you divide your land, you resell other parts, you just keep a small portion, a good size portion for which you can invest. With the money that you're gonna get from the reselling of the other part, it can help you out to start building. And once you have built, now you need to be smart. You can either rent it out, you can resell and start again, or you can also buy houses that you flip. That really depends on your income. You know, in life, as immigrants, we came here to have a better life, but you can't do everything with 9-to-5. I don't believe into 9-to-5 as the main source, as the only source of income. So you need to think out of the box. So in this channel, we try to challenge each other to start and learn to think out of the box. That's the only way that we can move forth. In this channel, there is ways I can tell you in which country. You don't need to be from a country for you to invest into that country. Yes, the money, for example, the example I just gave, you need, for example, to be here to get that type of money. For another person, it could have been that you have saved up that money, but we don't normally save up over 100,000, but if you did, that's kind of like one example that you could do that. Another person, you could have saved up to about maybe that 50,000. Instead of just buying that expensive land, you could buy another type of land a little bit far from the city, but as cities in Africa are keep on evolving, developing, within 2 years, civilization or people will start building over there. So at that time, you can divide them, resell at a pot, and that money that you get will help you to start building. So investment is not about doing something today and having money. It's about planning right what to do. It's about planning your move. It's like playing Monopoly. I always consider investment as playing Monopoly, and as you say, what yields the more values throughout the years, this is the way that you need to be thinking. Why is that? The first reason, for example, is because it doesn't require much of your investment for it to happen. Why am I saying that? Remember, if you were investing into other things, for example, into opening a company in Africa, you need to be going there, you need to be doing a lot of back and forth. And doing those back and forth wouldn't allow you if you have like a decent job, a 9 to 5 job. And when investing, you can only rely on your investment if the return on your investment is high enough to cover whatever income that your work was making for you. But if you haven't reached that level as yet, you need to be smart about it. So you need to do your normal work, and you also need to invest. In Africa, lands are getting expensive, and who's buying those lands? Why can't you be amongst those people buying the lands? I always say, if the lands are expensive in the city, go a little bit outside the city, 5-10 kilometers, gradually according to what you can afford. Once you have secured the land, you don't need to start building right away. You can wait. You can wait up to whatever amount of time till you get ready. Once you are ready, then you can start building. Whilst you're waiting, your land is not losing value. Is still increasing its value. You can still resell it. Depending, if you bought a land, very cheap land, you could still kind of like divide it, sell a little bit of some of those land to give you enough cash flow to start building something, and so forth and so forth. There are a lot of ideas. In Africa, for example, I know a lot of friends in Togo or in Congo, for example, they buy lands and they divide those lands and make profit out of land divisions and resales, and the money that they get from those transactions allows them to start building, regardless a house or a set of apartments. In Africa, it's really a land of opportunities. The demographics is changing rapidly, and there is new jobs in Africa. People are having a lot of money now in Africa, so you still always make money into either reselling houses that you have built or renting out your places. You're still gonna make good money out of those. Let's say somebody coming from abroad, let's say from Europe or North America, going to Africa, and you create your own company. It's gonna require your involvement, because you can't delegate somebody to be managing your company from a startup. You can only do that once it has been established, the cash flow, everything is under control, you have your own type of like auditors, and that's only when you can delegate somebody to take care of your business. Where else in your when constructing, let it be a house or anything, You can delegate. You can hire like a construction company that can be doing that for you, and you just probably required one friend, one good friend that you trust, or a family member that can be overseeing what they're doing. But by then you have all your prices set in terms of those constructions, and you can be paying bit by bit. You don't need to finish a construction within 6 months. It can take up to 2-3 years, but the return on investment that's gonna yield is gonna set you up for life. And that one thing I appreciate about investing on those kind of like investment property for these topics. I'm seeing a lot of movement these days. People try to go into sales, buying things and selling into Africa. Again, that's very possible, but sometimes it really takes somebody that you trust, or it really takes a good network or setup, or you need to be yourself there on the ground doing the work. And sometimes it's difficult, again, because I say because of the work that we do. If you are working and sometimes you can't have time to do that. If this is your first time into this channel, subscribe for more content. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I trust to see you again next time.